Well, hello there, and this is Auntie, and I am here with a special guest to talk about the never-ending Jihoon and Deavan story. There are some new things that are going on in this never-ending saga. And I have Jihoon's attorney here. You all have met him before. His name is Joseph, and we're going to be bringing him forward. Okay, and we're just going to talk about this new litigation, these new motions that he has filed. Oh my God, it's so exciting. So anyway, if this is your first time being here, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. To all of my new subscribers, thank you all so much for joining the family. And to all of my nieces and nephews who have been here with me for the long haul, thank you all so much for your continued support. So as we all know, there has been a lot of he said, she said on Instagram. A lot of stuff been going on. And sometimes when you put a person's name out there, when you make allegations as if they are a matter of fact, sometimes you can get slapped on the hand, and then sometimes a bomb will drop on your ass. Okay? And it seems that Joseph has dropped the bomb. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him to the StreamYard, and I'm asking everybody to please be respectful in the chat. Please respect him and this platform. Please feel free to exercise your constitutional right? But here on Auntie's channel, I don't know so much about that Constitution. Okay. So let's bring him forward. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing fine. It seems like you have been a very busy man, according to the document that I have.
Yes, and that's true. We have, initially, we were just going to let sleeping dogs lie. We were just like, look, let's just worry about this other issue over here with respect to the divorce and their son. But as the weeks have gone by, there's been more and more stuff that's been forwarded to us about like what was being said about his parents, things like that. And so it was escalating, and I had a conversation with Jihoon through the translators and everything that way. And I just said, look, at some point you're going to have to defend yourself against this, because if you don't say anything, then they're going to assume that it's true. And so that's kind of where that led off. And then, so yesterday we filed our brief. It's a brand new complaint, and it's basically detailing a lot of the things that you see in defamation law nationally. Some of it has made national news in terms of people being in the news, and other people getting sued for defamation and libel and slander. And so that's what he's done, is he's saying, okay, enough of this. Let's let the truth come out, and let's get on this. And whatever the truth is, whatever documents we can subpoena to show the truth, and somebody's not telling the truth, and so we need to get to the bottom of that, and that's what we're doing.
Well, let me tell you something. When I read this, right, and I haven't read the whole thing, it was like a bedtime story. It was like, you get your drink, your popcorn, a comfy blanket, your slippers, put your PJs on. Like, this was Chelsea. I am going to bring some of it up to the screen, on the screen, if you don't mind,
Right.
so that I can talk about some of this. Or would you like to go through? Would you prefer if I bring
No,
it
you
up?
can you can bring it up. Like I said, it's a matter of public record. So I mean, for people that have the service in that way, I mean, you can call, reporters can call and get that. So they're not private documents. And here it is a public document. It is accessible. If you were to go down to the court, you would be able to get that. And so that's where I'm at. And if we do want to talk about it, that's phenomenal. I just know that we're going to be amending it because additional information has kind of continued to percolate up, and so we need to correct it to include that additional information. I anticipate doing that this weekend, and then after that, we can get her and some of these other parties served.
All right, let's do it, Joe.
All right.
You know, I felt like a little bit of like Kamala. We did it, Joe. We did it.
Well, like you were saying, people have a First Amendment right. You have a First Amendment right, but it's not unlimited. So, I wouldn't be able to go out and talk to you about, I wouldn't be able to go out and impugn the good name of somebody if I knew it was completely false. Right. So if you're, that's the truth is the great defense of any defamation case. But here it's like, okay, well, where does the truth lie? I mean, what are we talking about here? And some of this stuff is pretty outrageous. And that's kind of the other thing. And if you saw in the complaint, child abuse in Utah is punishable. It's a felony too, right? Depending on the severity of the child abuse. And what she's alleging is that it was severe, like a severe abuse, right, to her daughter.
Wow.
And so that's what she's alleging. Those are her own words, right? That's the stuff that we pulled from the internet out there. So, it's not, those weren't my words. Those were her words. Those were the captions utilized in some of these publications. And so when you start looking into the Utah Code, and I cite the statute, but child abuse of a severe bodily injury can be charged as a felony too. Well, the thing about that is under the libel laws and under the slander laws, if you're alleging that somebody is committing a felony offense, then at that point it goes into slander per se. So then the burden shifts away from us, and basically we can just argue that, yeah, this is a felony offense. That's what she's alleging, and so she's impugned his good name. And if it's not true, then there's going to be some issues.
Oh, I feel like oh, good. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's bring it up.
And the other thing I wanted to say too is the reason why we're going to have to amend it is because there were some allegations made against his parents. So we have that video footage, and so somewhere in the online universe, there's somebody that's coming out and saying that Jihoon's parents abused her. And so we have that audio, and so we're going to have to amend that because it's the same thing there. It's like, even though they're not in America, they still have a right to their privacy, right? They still have a right to be free from a smear attack, and so that's where we're at.
I tell you, Joe, I think I'm in love. I think I'm in love. Just kidding. So let me bring this up. Let's see if we can. Oh, whew. Okay. So calm down, Auntie. Calm down. So there we go. Whew. So I want to bring it up. Do I want to make it a little bigger, Joe? Can you see it really good?
I can see, somewhat see it, but go ahead.
Okay,
I wonder if I turn it. There you go. Now I can see it better. I turned my phone.
Okay, great. So to everybody looking, it says in the 4th Judicial District Court for Utah State, Jihoon is the plaintiff, and Deavan Hyun Woo Park. Now, who is that?
So that, I don't remember. I don't know if you recall, but I believe one of our first interviews, like the first interview, we talked about the fact that if you are going to mess around with a married person in Utah, the Utah Supreme Court has recognized the lawsuit of alienation of affection, right? And so that's still a legal cause of action in the state of Utah. And basically what that means, and I believe I said that in the complaint, was that in the complaint, we talk about the fact that he knew or should have known that she was married at the time, that he moved in with her while they were still married, and they're still in the marital relationship. And then after that, the other component of this is like, we still have to figure this out, but he's been capitalizing on Jihoon's image and likeness, as well as Jihoon's son's image and likeness. And I think we put in the complaint too that there's been we have footage and we have information that says that he's calling their son, his son, and that he's his dad and everything else, you know. And I think there's even footage of her saying or writing the fact um, that there's some issue with the birth certificate, and so she's kind of feeding into that. And so that's why we ended up including him, is because we're saying, look, you knew or should have known at the time that you entered into this relationship with her that she was a married woman, and that you have alienated her affections, and my client has a tort against you for that in Utah.
Are you kidding me, Joe?
Now, but we talked about that. We talked about that. I want to say one of our first lives together, and I'm speaking generally, but I
Yeah,
think
but you actually filed that. So this is Devan's boyfriend.
right, alleged boyfriend. I don't know.
Alleged boyfriend.
Right.
And so in John Doe's 1 through 10. So you've left yourself open to add other people, other defendants.
Right, and that's because, and simply because that's in order to do this stuff, um, you have to file now. But there's going to be names that come forward. I mean, there's been a multitude of publications that have come out and run with this story, and what we're saying is it's just not right. You know, so it's not right that they did that, and you know they didn't corroborate the story, and they trusted whichever source they trusted. But either way, we're going to get to the bottom of it, and the people that have been slandering him, you know, are going to ask to prove it. Like, show us what you had when you had it before you made this statement. You know,
So are you going to be suing those publications?
I'm not saying it's impossible. You know, I'm just trying
But
to
just
get
in
it.
fact, you,
Yeah,
you
just
wanted to.
that's just in case we decide to. Yeah, I mean, we could possibly do that, but at the same time, what he really wants is he just wants the lies to stop. You know. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it was escalating, and so that's why he took this measure.
And so let me ask you a question because I'm sure that people are wondering. Are you still doing the other case? Is that one still open? Are you still fighting that one as well? Because I know people have been giving to the GoFundMe, and I don't
Right.
want nobody coming at Auntie and saying he did this and now he's not doing that. So
No,
are
there's
you
there's
actually
yeah, there's still that primary case. So that one is the primary case, right? But because the stuff that was happening was escalating, then we said, okay, well, we're going to have to start this secondary thing, because we have a lot more. You know, we can raise a lot of these claims outside of the other court. So the other court was a family law court. It's on a family law track. Rather than mix the issues, we decided, you know what, let's just purify this. We'll come over, we'll keep all of these claims together over here, and that will have a separate track, you know. But I mean, eventually we're going to take depositions. Eventually, depositions are sworn statements. So eventually we're going to do that, and we'll let the process work. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just let the process work.
Mhm.
Guess what? I have kids. I'm sure everybody watching has kids. I mean, we don't want anybody. I'd be mortified if somebody came at me and said, "Hey, you know, you're guilty of child abuse and you severe bodily injury." So I'd be mortified if somebody were doing that to me. And I think here he just has to defend himself. So
Hell yeah. Okay, so let's get into some of these general allegations here. So it says general allegations on numerous occasions. The defendant, Clegg, has publicly spoken out and accused plaintiff of doing quote unquote vile things and abusing her daughter. Now, you all did not name the daughter because she is a juvenile, correct?
correct, correct. And we want to, I mean, although her name, I had to protect her name in this document. Her name has been kind of splashed around
Yes, it has.
in the stories that we have, where I had to just remove that out, so that way, we maintain her anonymity.
Okay, perfect. So it says Clegg did not file a report with police until 1/17 of 2021 for events she alleges happened in March and April of 2020. Yet for approximately 5 months has continued to allege abuse in the media and online platforms such as YouTube and Instagram. Now you mean to tell me that her ass, okay, wait a minute, let me keep it high level. that she just filed something almost 30 days, less than 30 days ago. Are you serious about this?
And it's not. I always tell people, don't take my word for it. This is stuff that's out in the public sphere. So this is stuff that we have, that we pulled off the internet, and yeah, I mean that's what it looks like based upon the stuff that we have.
So I thought that there was a rumor out there or something, or some kind of allegation that somewhere I saw it in some publication. I can't remember what it was, that South Korea was seriously investigating him. Is that true? And is that true to your knowledge? And is that why you all decided, hey, we need to do something because now I'm being
Well,
investigated in my home?
yeah, and I think it's twofold, right? So there wasn't, at least from what we understand from talking to him and his parents, there wasn't something that was going on prior to this date here, this 1/17/2021. After that, they had, I believe they had opened up an investigation, but it's a year after the fact, and so
Hmm.
that's what we have to figure out, is like, what was that based off of? So we're trying to get the South Korean documents themselves, certified copies of those from the actual thing there, because I don't think, and again, if something is true, let it be true. I'm not here to create facts. I'm here to basically say, what did you say, when did you say it, was it true when you said it? So here, that's a big part of this, was that this was filed so late after the fact, and it wasn't until after Jihoon had filed an answer in the other case that this really got going on that end. And we should have more information. I know that I just got to let that, I'm not familiar with the South Korean process with respect to this. I just got to let that work. But like I said, I mean, if it gets dismissed, that's one thing. If it's substantiated, then obviously that changes our position. But that's usually how these things go. Is they're either unsubstantiated or substantiated, at least in the U.S. system. So we just have to look at that and see what's up.
Right, because you say here she has published photos online through multimedia channels and claims to have video proving the above occurred, which the states she will which she states she will release after the court issues. Like what?
Yeah, and that's something that we're also trying to get. So, absent a lawsuit, we don't really have a way to subpoena or get information uh, directly from the source. So it's also a measure to protect him, because we're basically saying, look, anybody can say whatever they want, but what do the documents say? Like, I would like to subpoena TLC. I would like to subpoena, some of these things where she's made allegations against him, saying that he wasn't invited, he was fired, they have video proof. Like, we want the raw footage. Then, like, okay, if they're able to get it to us, and there's no guarantee that they would get it to us, because they may claim it's work product or some other type of trade secret, and I understand that, but we're still going to make the request. Uh, Either way, at that point, this is for self-protection as well, is to sift out what's true, what's not true. And I think that's the biggest thing there.
So you said on or about September the 24th, 2020, Clegg attended a YouTube interview claiming her daughter sat her down several times to discuss the alleged abuse. Okay. Defendant Clegg claims that plaintiff was uninvited to the 90-Day Fiance Tell All show due to these allegations, and the network didn't want defendant Clegg anywhere near the plaintiff. She actually said that in a damn interview.
Right, right. And so that's why we're trying to get to the bottom of this. Is just like, look, we just want the truth out there, whatever that is. And I know he's willing to take responsibility for anything that somebody says he's done wrong. But like I said, I mean, some of these allegations, like how are we supposed to know if that's true or not unless we talk to TLC and say, okay, what was there a memo sent out? Was there an invite that was not sent out? That kind of stuff.
So you're going to be actually getting a subpoena for these things.
Right. Because then they have to give us the information, or at least have a conversation with the court about the relevance of this information that pertains to this case.
So you done went out there and threw it out there. You said on or about October 2nd, 2020 on Sherrill's World. Defendant Clegg provided the details of her daughter's mistreatment lawsuit, which did not exist. Joe. Joe!
Right.
So you actually have a legal team that is collecting this information, correct or incorrect?
Right. Well, and the YouTube nation, the Instagram nation, people that are in his corner are basically helping this process, because they're basically sending stuff our way and saying, look, take a look at this, take a look at that. And the more stuff that we get in, it's just, there's just too much of it. And so we have to parse it down and just, but all of this stuff will come out in the process of this litigation. We just have to make sure that everything that should get in there gets in there. And we'll disclose all of this to whoever her lawyer tends to be, and then we'll figure it out.
So on this one, you have named Sherelle's World, right? Could she
Right.
be one of the ones could she be added to this?
Well, and that's what we have to figure out. I personally don't like bringing people in unless I have concrete evidence. So I think the biggest thing for me is, I don't like suing indiscriminately. I think everything should have a purpose. And so here, it's arguable. I mean, they're the ones that published it. So then it really comes down to, okay, well, what was your source for this? Did you verify the information before you published it, or did you just publish it?
Okay, so I'm a YouTuber. I do content on these people. I usually come out and do a segment called Auntie Say It and So. At that time, I when I do that, I always source and say, well, this came. I'm reading an article. I put it up on the screen, and I
Right.
say this is from soapdirt.com. This isn't me. I'm just reporting with Soap Dirt. Am I
Right.
free of defamation and libel?
Right, because there's usually an exception when it comes to like teaching or things of that nature, or things that you're doing there where you're just reading from another article, because you're making it clear this is just out there in this article. It's not like you coming it's not like you coming out and saying like this is what happened, right? You're quoting to an article, you're saying, what does this article say? Can we read between the lines? Things of that nature. So yeah, they would have a hard time saying that you did that, especially when you're reading, so what might happen is they would go then to the article source and say, okay, well, she read from this article, let's go back to the source. Was this true when you guys wrote it? Yes or no? And then who was your source? And then they say, well, I can't give up my source. And it's like, well, that's fine then, but if you can't prove that it was true when you said it, then so you're not a source person. You're reading through and kind of going along like hot topics and trends in the news.
Okay. So this next one, on or about October 2nd, the Hollywood Gossip. On the Hollywood Gossip, defendant Clegg provided chilling details of abuse by the plaintiff that were untrue and unverified. On or about October 2nd, Clegg live streamed on YouTube all about the vile things plaintiff did to her daughter. She claimed to be breaking her silence on the allegations that caused her to flee South Korea with her children. Then you go on to say, I'm gonna tell you, Joe, I need to get you on speed dial. So on or about October 6th, Clegg provided shocking photos of her daughter's alleged, which was untrue, and the photos were not actual photos, but were likely photo damn shopped.
Right. So that's where we have our own information where, we have, when in talking to Jihoon and those guys over there, they have before and after photos. I mean, they have photos because they took a lot of photos of the kids. And so we have, according to Jihoon and according to the translator, we have video footage of that. And so that's why the TLC footage is going to become, because if we're able to show that something was doctored, I mean that's just not going to be very. That's just not going to go very well. So that's where, from my end, it's like that's what she said. Those were her words. They were taken from that publication and that time frame, that specific date. And so now it's okay. Well, on that date, show me the photos, show me the originals. You know, let's look at the originals and see were these documents changed substantially to, you know, to be published, or are these the original? And then we can go get our originals and say, okay, well, do these match up, or is there something wrong here?
And you know, the thing about it is, oftentimes, as a content creator, whether it's a blog or a vlog or whatever, you just want to be, you know, the first to the story. And so, you know, and then you use thumbnails that kind of draw people in, and it's kind of clickbaity. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah,
clickbaity. But here you're showing me, you're putting my ass in check because you said on or about October 9th, defendant went to Entertainment Today News Channel, and the headline was heartbreaking. 90-day fiance Deavan Clegg claims Jihoon mistreated her daughter with proof. So then that now makes this particular person possibly liable of defamation and slander, right?
right. And I think one of the biggest national cases, you know, do you remember, there was that kid that had been at a Trump rally, and and basically the national media had slandered him, and it was Ellen Wood, who was the defamation lawyer for.
Yeah,
Do you remember that, where there was like the Native American, and you know,
right.
he had kind of accosted these guys, and that was what was happening. So at that moment, you know, that's very similar to that. Those guys ended up settling out with the news, you know, the news media, with that kid and his family, simply because they took it and published it without ever having verified the underlying facts. And so
So,
that's kind of what we're saying. We're saying, okay, if there is documented proof on that day that this thing happened, then
show
please
it,
get us that proof.
show it.
Right,
And you know what? And that's why a lot of times, and you know this from, you know, when I did the first thing, I always
right.
want to see it, touch it, smell it. I want to,
Yeah,
I don't come out with stories and I get information, tea, and all of that kind of stuff dropped in my DMs on Instagram and in my email. But I don't run to report the story without having the evidence that this actually happened.
right, right,
I've just It's just been a practice of mine that I've been doing since I do this because I think that we have a responsibility to have some integrity in this.
right. And I think that's the proper way to go about journalism. You know, is just, you know, you have your sources, you cite your sources, and you say, okay, according to this article, this is what it says. What do you think? Is this true or not true? You know, but for them to come out and say that, it's like, okay, well, they've said it. Obviously, they've said it. So now we're going to have to go after that information and say, okay, well, was it true or was it not true? What did you have and when did you have it? You know?
So now this one, I looked at this one, and there's so many of them, and I don't want to hold you all night. So on this one, you says on or about December 5th of 2020, Clegg announced that she was making a documentary about her and her children being victims, okay, at the hands of the plaintiff. On or about February 9th, okay, which was a couple of days ago. So you are on this. I mean, you are on this shiznle, okay? You said that Clegg went to In Touch magazine and indicated that plaintiff was under investigation and defended Clegg very serious child A claims. So we look like we lost Joe. Okay, so he's back.
Here, hold on one second. Hold on one second.
Okay. So y'all, let me tell y'all, this tea is piping cotton freaking hot. Okay, straight off the press. This is a public document. I am not the story. I'm just reporting this mofo. Okay, so let's continue to go through some more of these allegations that he has had in here. He says she indicated that police have received the evidence and are taking it very seriously and working with Clegg closely. Clegg also indicated that the investigation was ongoing, so she will not be able to speak further upon it, but continue to speak upon it right up until the filing of the instant lawsuit under the code of annotated 76-5-1092. Child abuse is a felony 2, punishable with up to $10,000 fine and prison of 5 to 15 years for each offense if a person inflicts serious bodily injury to a minor child. And Clegg has consistently maintained that the plaintiff has inflicted very serious abuse and bodily harm to her daughter to the extent that she had to allegedly flee South Korea. Plaintiff has suffered significant harm as a result of the allegation that he was involved in whatever. I mean, you are Joe. You went in. Joe's gone, so we're gonna keep on reading. We lost Joe again. So let me take this off of the screen real quick. We're gonna wait for Joe to come back. Y'all, let me tell y'all. Joe is on this mofo. I mean, absolutely. Okay. I want to go down to, there are a bunch of clauses of action in here. But I want to read the clause of actions, Joe.
Okay.
Do you want to stay here? Do you want me to read the clause of actions?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that they're all based on like defamation, false light, like defamation law in the state of Utah. So basically, it's like, look, you have a right to privacy. You know, there's been the U.S. Supreme Courts that have said that. The precursor to Roe v. Wade was that people have a right to privacy in their individual, their individual bodies. The right to privacy has been found in a lot of different courts, and Utah is no exception. So in Utah, that's what we're talking about. And here, if you utilize somebody's likeness and image and you monetize that without their permission, like that's going to be an issue. Like you see that all the time with stars. I think most notably there was one with Amanda Siegfried, and she was the lady from Mamma Mia, the little blonde from Mamma Mia. She had some she had some issues with some photos, and then same thing with Katniss Everdeen. I'm trying to think of the from the Katniss Everdeen. I'm trying to think of what her name is.
The name is so familiar. She played on
It's not Lawrence. God, what is it? It's it'll come to me. But she had
she was the one. It was an action movie.
Right. So she's been in like everything, and I just can't think of her name. But she's an A-list actress. She had that same issue where people were taking her image and likeness and putting them onto different websites that way. And so you have a control over.
They said Jennifer Lawrence.
That's what it is, Jennifer Lawrence. Right. Right. Yeah, I remember she was with Bradley Cooper in that one space one. I've seen a lot of her shows. But either way, so that's kind of where we're going with this. And then we pled out the different causes of action because they all have a slight nuance to it where, we're saying, look, it's clear that somebody's monetizing these activities and his image and all of these things, but he's not getting compensated for it. And he's over in South Korea, and, somebody's monetizing, his child's image and likeness. And so at a certain point, you either want to agree, because come to an agreement between the two parties so they can figure that out, or stop publishing, because at a certain point, you're utilizing Jihoon for your own gain. And then at the same time, we're alleging that she's made all those statements, and she's actually made more, and we're updating that as we get more info that comes in like almost every hour. And so that's what we're trying to do. Okay, because there's just so much stuff. There's so much stuff. There was an allegation. I know that there was an allegation, and I don't know if we'll put that in or not, but that Devan's mom had sought out somebody working for Jihoon. Well, there is a police report about that. So when we talk about there's a police report, there's been something filed, something was called in. I mean, that stuff exists. I mean, police, dispatch has the call. there has to be a report generated. So it's like that's what I'm talking about. Either it's true or it's not true. But if we have the truth, if that was actually done, then we're gonna utilize that and back that up. Same thing that goes with the quote unquote serious bodily injury. Like those weren't my words. Those were what were put out in these publications. So now it's like, okay, it's just kind of turning inspector on us and saying, okay, we have to, we have to work backwards and say, okay, what did you have when you said this?
Because the only defense to defamation and slander is truth, right?
Correct.
So if these things are true, then then Jihoon doesn't have a case.
Right. If they're true, then he doesn't have a case. Exactly right. And if they're false, then it's just like I Love Lucy. Somebody's got some explaining to do.
Right. And I know, with me, I do thumbnails. So I'll use Jihoon's picture in a thumbnail. And
Right.
usually you can get copyright strike for that. But if that has already been in a publication,
Right.
and I download it and I change the image,
Right. Well, and see,
I
here's
can
the
use
thing.
it.
Right, but there's also fair use. I mean, there's this whole thing under fair use law, right? And that's what you're referring to is like, look, there's very delineated things for fair use, but the stuff that we're talking about here is completely different. So it's
Yeah.
like, look, the fair use laws are what they are. If you're reporting on it, if you're utilizing it, like those are all really spelled out under that fair use law. But what we're talking about here is something completely different with respect to like what was said, what their aim was. Like they just wrote all these uh, salacious salacious articles, and at a certain point, he's just like, look, I can tell he can say that he's innocent till he's blue in the face. But until something like this happens where he's able to stand up in court and really look somebody in the face and say, okay, who's telling the truth, me or her? That's
Wow.
that's how you defend against that, because essentially that's it's no longer in the court of opinion, it's in the 4th District Court in Provo, Utah. So somebody down there is going to hear this and somebody's going to have to make a decision.
So what relief are you looking for?
Well, here it's just kind of tough. So we know that there's monetary damages, right? But because what she alleged was a felony 2, we don't have to technically prove damages. So it's slander per se, libel per se. That just means it's a different type of the law, where if you're, and it's kind of funny, it's kind of a funny area, but if you're impugning the integrity of a lady, right? And I love saying that, but impugning the integrity of a lady, that's slander per se. If you're impugning somebody's work, somebody's business, that's slander per se. So there's all these little nuances there. And so if you're alleging that somebody broke the law and that law was a felony 3 or higher, then that's slander per se. So ordinarily what you'd have to do is you'd have to show the damages. You say, well, this hurt me and this amount of damages and all the rest of it. Well, when some of these criteria are met, you don't have to show that. You just have to show that the statement was made, that it was untrue, and that it was published somewhere to the public.
So I got a question to ask you.
Okay.
I'm a YouTuber.
Right.
I don't show how many subscribers I got because that ain't nobody business but mine.
Okay.
But I come out and I make an accusation against somebody. Right?
Right.
I think I said allegedly, but I didn't. Somebody gets a clip of that accusation that I've made. I don't have a way of proving it because the evidence is gone.
Then
with my ass in.
Well, then it would depend on the person's motivation to bring it, right? They'd have to either file it themselves in your location or they'd have to go through this process. And this process is kind of an arduous one. And then the other thing too is that if you said, let's say if what you said was not considered to be a felony, what didn't fall under those categories were their slander per se. Does that make sense? If they
Yeah.
didn't fall into those categories, then they would have to show that even if you published it, what harm did you do? Like what harm did they suffer? It can't just be emotional and all the rest of it. It has to have like some
It got to
monetary
be
value,
monetary.
right?
Hmm.
And so there's, so but here where what she's alleging, we believe is a felony too, that changes the equation.
Because he can say that because he can also say that as far as damages, and I just want to make sure I understand it and everybody else understand it. He can say that he lost future wages
Right.
as a result of this.
Yeah, he could. I mean, are you gonna hire somebody that's a child abuser? I mean, I don't think so,
Yeah,
right?
don't
Or
nobody want
alleged
that
child
stigma.
abuser, right? So I don't. I think that kind of trails you, and if it's out in the public sphere, um, he just wants to be able to say like, look, this is false, or and show me where she's alleging I pulled out 2 to 3 inch patch of her hair.
You know that was some bullshit. I,
Well, well,
I'm
all I'm
trying to
saying
say high level, but that was some. Come on.
that's what's been alleged, and so now we just have to say, okay, is that true or not? And that's what we're figuring out.
So that means that you're going to have to. So you are asking for a trial.
Yeah, we'll be asking for a trial. We haven't waived the idea of a jury trial. Ordinarily, these types of things are tried to judges instead of juries, although you can request a jury trial. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
There's a question for you, Joe. Can you see the question?
Yeah, so okay, let's see here. I'm a paralegal in Salt Lake City who works solely in family law. Joe is a good man, thank you, and a good attorney. Will you ask him why he filed in fourth district court? Because that's where the defendants are. So because Jihoon's in South Korea, under the code, that's where we had to file because that's where the defendants reside. So yes, arguably we could have filed in third district court, which is Salt Lake City, Utah jurisdiction, Salt Lake County. But they could always move to transfer down to their home county, which was the fourth district court. So that's why.
Okay. So let me see if I have a couple of more questions. I'm not going to keep you long. Jennifer, if you're a paralegal, there are a number of reasons for proper jurisdiction. It is likely where one party lives. Is that a
Right.
correct statement coming from DSJ?
Yep, that's it. So you have
Okay.
to,
So
if you had a contract dispute, you would have to bring that contract claim in the county where the defendant resides, right? So that's usually how it is, because otherwise they could move to change venues, and then it's just prolonging the inevitable, right? So you always try to just get it into the county where they lie, and instead of
so someone is asking this question, and she says, this is Courtney Tom. She says, what about her letting her new dude sleep in the bed with the kids? Is that a
I'm
crime?
I'm not aware of that allegation at all.
Me, me
So yeah, I mean, so I can't really comment to that, but all I can tell you is that if that's true, I'm sure it will come out in this lawsuit. And I mean, that's something that, I mean, if there's video footage of it, I'm sure there is somewhere. Then I would just say that would speak for itself. But I don't have any knowledge about any of that.
Yeah, me either. Me either. But I guess you may have heard it somewhere. So Mel Bryan says, ask him about the documentary. Is it wrong for her to do the documentary? Does she have to get his permission in order to put a documentary together about her life? Couldn't she call that a memoir?
Well, and I think that's the question there is where does the footage come from, right? So who owns the rights to that? I mean, if TLC owns the rights to that footage, and we'd have to see what kind of documents he signed with them. If they, can they use that document? Can they use that video footage for? Um, can they use that video footage, and is it up to TLC's sole discretion? So we just have to figure that out. I mean, if it's a documentary, I mean, there's been a lot of documentaries that have been pulled down off of YouTube because you're utilizing somebody files an objection, right? A claim strike on YouTube saying, hey, they never got my permission to use my image and likeness, so therefore you have to take your video down. And that happens all the time to people, like all the time. More
Absolutely.
so now in the last 4 years.
Absolutely, because I actually got a claim from a cast member who was, doing it maliciously. I had used their pictures in my thumbnail, and they went to YouTube crying, and of course they did not win because it was fair use. But and so YouTube was like, look, Auntie, we got your back on this. Now you can take this down voluntarily, or you can leave it up. It's up to you.
Right.
We looked at this, we evaluated your thumbnail, and it falls under fair use. But in order
Right.
to keep the peace, I took the image off and put my
Okay.
own image on.
All right.
Now I'm not so gracious to everybody, but for this particular person, I just was like, you know what? Let me keep the peace, and I took it down. So if she's doing a documentary based on footage that she's recording at home, that could be acting or could be real, she owns that footage.
Right.
So she can legally do that documentary without his permission, as long as she doesn't use what? Because couldn't she have a picture, if she's doing a documentary, couldn't she have a picture of the family together with him and his son? Or does she have
Right.
to act that?
No, usually what they do is they blur out the photos of the children, usually, to maintain their privacy. But in that scenario, I mean, that's a pretty complicated scenario. And so I just think that if you have, usually it's the person that's taking the video that owns the copyright to that. It's from what I understand, right? And so if somebody's taking a selfie, and I remember it was, I think it was Bradley Cooper, and it was like at the Emmys, and he took a photo of like him, Lawrence, Jennifer Lawrence, Ellen, like there were a bunch of celebrities in the background of that photo. And somebody actually asked that question, well, who owns the right to that? Who can publish that? And it's the person that took the photo, right? And that's kind of where that angle lies. Here, if you have some family photo up in the background, I mean, I think that would be a gray area. I mean, that's just too gray, right? I mean, at that point, it's in your house, you have it there. And that's a little bit different than going out and using somebody else's footage.
So when did you? So I'm gonna let you go because we're going into the hour, and I know you got things to do, and so do I. I'm gonna go.
It's Friday night, but what else?
I'm going to go to the members, and I'm going to let the members. We're just going to read everything, right?
All right.
We're going to go behind the wall. But I wanted to ask about the son. Now
Okay.
he is fighting right now for custody of his son,
Right.
but he's
That's yeah.
been plastering him everywhere, right?
Right.
Can he go back later if he wins custody of his son? And I won't ask you where you are in that case. Can he go back and sue for those damages, or what could happen with his son as a result of all of this?
Well, and that's the other thing, right? Is like who's looking out for the son? So I mean,
Exactly.
she's flashed. I know that there was like, remember there's Macaulay Culkin's Law, where it was like his parents squandered his fortune that he had made in all those movies, right? So here we almost you almost want to say, okay, well, identify, well, how much was generated from the image and likeness
You
of
know
their
where
son.
I was going?
Right. And then can you put that into a trust? Can you claw that back and put that into a trust for his purposes? Because right now I just don't think there's any oversight to that. And so I think that's all Jihoon really wants is like, look, I just want to look out for my little guy and just make sure he's okay. And I know that there's some crazy stuff going on. I know that there's been some crazy stuff going on with respect to that, where there's been some allegations made that Jihoon's not on the birth certificate and all the rest of it, and
Yeah,
that
I saw that. I saw that. I'm going to share that
right,
with my members.
right, and from my end, I'm like, okay, well, that to me is shocking, So we'll just have to see, but that doesn't mean, So I guess the thing that matters on that is under Utah law, in general, okay, if you're not on the birth certificate, then you're not the presumptive father. So you have to overcome a minor burden to show that you are the father. If you are on the birth certificate in Utah, then the court will assume that you are the father. And if you wanted to change that designation, you would have to take like a paternity test or some other type of test to show that, yes, this is my son, or no, this is not my son. So it's just another twist in this case that we're going to have to deal with. But it's some pretty interesting twists. I mean, this isn't your garden variety. This isn't your garden variety like ham and cheese. You know, this is got some Dijon, little pickle. You know, this is some interesting stuff. So, you know, it keeps you on your
Oh,
toes. That's
spice
for
it up,
sure.
Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I like sriracha as much as the next person. It's just tough to, you know, when everything's coming at you fast and you have all of these things happening. You know, what do you do and when do you do it? And it's just, this was the time to do it because it was escalating. You know, and I think that there is a documentary. There's more stuff. There's more stuff coming out where they're trying to argue that the parents now, you know, so we just have
That's
to.
disgusting. But this will teach people a lesson. It will also set a precedence by which other people will be able to litigate in the future. And I just think that the best thing that Amanda ever did was found you.
Well, thank
No,
you.
I'm
Thank
serious.
you.
I'm not doing it to boost your ego or anything
Yeah.
like that. Like, you are the man. When I look through this legal document, and boy, do I love legal documents. I, I was like, oh my God, Joe covered it. You, in my opinion, left absolutely no stone unturned. You're
Right.
phenomenal.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And like I said, I've been doing this for 17 years. I tend to stand up for the underdog, you know, and I just have a real, you know, I have a real need to make sure that people's voices are heard and that people, you know, get access to representation because, you know, I've heard all these stories where people just can't find a lawyer to take their case. They can't find them. And so they're stuck navigating all these things by themselves, you know. And here, you know, yes, there was the GoFundMe, but when I took this case, that was what was so interesting about it is I took this case because he needed help. You know, the I think the GoFundMe at the time had less than $1,000 in it. You know, the filing fee alone for the lawsuit over here for, you know, is a lot, you know, then we got to get it served and all the rest of it. But so we're utilizing that. But at the same time, when we took this case, there was no promise that anything would come in. The only thing I promised was that I'd take care of him, you know, and that he would have a fighter in the ring. And so that's what I promised to him, and that's what I'm doing.
Phenomenal. And you know what? I can tell that you're motivated with the heart of a father.
Yeah, I have 4 daughters. I have 4 daughters, you know. So
Enough said. And you can tell that, you know, that's your drive. It's like the heart of a father, right?
yeah,
And it reminds me a lot of my dad, even though he did something totally different. But every home he built, every hotel he, you know, contracted and built was with the heart of a father.
right.
Safety, making sure that, you know what I mean? So when you're driven by that, it comes out in your work, the thoroughness of your work. And I just was like, you know what, this is a work of art, Joe.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you
I
so
appreciate
much
you.
for being here. I
Well,
appreciate.
I mean, this is a matter of public record, and like I said, I think you know, I've seen this nationally happening all over the country. I mean, I know that Dominion, I think it was Dominion that did it against Sidney Powell and against Ellen Wood. Like Dominion are the ones that have come out and said like, hey, you know, we're going to sue you for defamation because, and then it's going to come down to court and say, okay, was what they were saying true or not true? And I think this is happening more and more because, you know, internet access is just going through the roof and people feel safe behind, you know, a computer screen or behind a text board or behind something like that. Well, what you say hurts people. And what's happening here is, you know, people are getting attacked and there's no clear way to really defend against it other than to sue for this type of stuff.
Sue the dog snot out of them.
Yeah, sue them all, let God sort them out, you know?
So when are you going to be licensed in the District of Columbia? Because I need to put you on retainer.
Not soon. I don't go past the Mississippi. I've been up and down the Mississippi, loved it, the humidity just kills me. I'm
Oh,
so
okay.
used to the dry heat now, having lived in the West most of my life. You know.
Well, I thank you so much. Do you have any final words that you want to um, give to all the thousands of people who are going to click on this video?
Well, the thing I wanted to say is thank you personally, because I know you do such a great job with this, and I know that you really do a service to your fan base and just getting the information out there. There's inquiring minds out there, and I really appreciate you and your fan base, and you just keep asking the tough questions because I think it's phenomenal, and I think this particular case kind of highlights a lot of these things that maybe a lot of people have gone through, and I hope that it can kind of show them like, okay, this is a roadmap of what you could do if faced with a similar problem.
Thank you so much, Joe. We
Yeah.
did it, Joe. We did it.
Well, I
Say
appreciate
hello
you,
to your
and
family for me. Thank your family so much for giving you this time.
all right, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye bye. Uh-oh. Wait a minute, y'all. Oh my goodness. Was that not the tea? If you are a member of Auntie's Advice, if you give me a little bit, we're going to go behind the gates and we're going to read the document in its totality. There's so much that I could not share because I wanted to try to keep this within an hour. Thank you to everybody who super chat, and I missed it because we were in the middle of a conversation. I really do appreciate that. I will continue to keep you all up to date on whatever comes out of this, but I'm telling you right now, this is some serious tea. And and as I told Joe, you can tell that he is absolutely motivated with the heart of a father. And when you are passionate about something and it affects you and it's at your doorstep, you have no other choice but to do this. And I'm sure, and Joe didn't tell me this, but I'm sure Joe is not getting paid what he's worth. And that's why I really believe that he is sincerely doing this from a heart of a father. Because as we all know, Jihoon is, I'm just basically delivering food in South Korea. Every time we see him, he's working. And even when he goes out and brought a scooter so that he can get back and forth, because that's, one of their major modes of transportation, people came against him for that. I'm hoping that the truth will prevail. And so, for all the content creators who look at this video, know that we have to make sure that we do our due diligence in reporting information. We have to make sure that we validate that information. As I was telling Joe, a lot of times your auntie be getting the tea, but I don't always serve it, nor do I spill it. I make sure that I verify that information. I get my receipts. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I ain't going down by my damn self. Okay, I verifies my information. But thank you all again so much for being here. Mary, thank you so much for holding down the chat. For everybody, to all of my new subscribers, thank you all so much for subscribing to the channel. I truly appreciate all of you, and I love you. You all have a great Friday. We will see each other tomorrow with our reviews of Little Women of Atlanta, and there's one more. Oh, Love After Lockup. So we'll see each other tomorrow when we do that. For all of my members, again, give me about a half hour and we will meet. I'll send you all a link and we can just go ahead on to get down with the get down in a membership. Love y'all. And thank you, Bishop, for being here. I see you, Bishop. Thank you for being here, Bishop. Love y'all.